Hello everyone, and I am back with a quick model to share, the Nerf hook gun. As always, this is a 3D printed Nerf blaster that shoots darts and rival balls, and the files to print one of these for yourself are linked in the video description. But let's talk a little more about what exactly this is before we continue. Because your Nerf gun will not get much more ooga booga than this, which is aping the design of European firearms from the mid-1300s, which is around when we had the first historical evidence for these. And it's kind of easier to talk about what this kind of weapon doesn't have as opposed to what it does, because obviously we don't have any spring-loaded anything because there's no trigger. There's just a tube with a hole in it that you put a lit match to. There is no stock because you need one hand to hold the match and the other to hold the front. So this is going over your shoulder or under the crook of your arm to hold like a lance. There are no sights because the way you hold it means it's pretty difficult to line up with your eye and your match will be blocking it anyway. That said, we do have one cool extra feature we won't see on much else, which is this hook. Because traditionally you'd be using this with a shield or on a castle wall, and that gives you a nice way to kind of secure this while you're messing around with it. Weirdly, with the release of the second Kingdom Come Deliverance game, we've got some fun examples of how you might be able to use these historically, i.e. blasting stuff from castle walls or during sieges. And how awkward it would be to use in a bit more of a dynamic situation. Well, how does it work? Well, as with all my other stuff, we are going to be able to prime it and insert either a rival ball or a dart and set it off with this trigger. One big change is, although this does accept rubber bands, it also uses bungee cord, which we'll show off in a sec. So with the bungee cord, we get a delightful 100 FPS. A little high, usually it's closer to 90, but you get the idea. That translates to about 20-ish meters when fired flat with darts and or rival balls. A little bit shorter than my piston-fired variants, but a bit more powerful than the elastic. One other new feature is that I've now, instead of a screw or some sort of locking twist thread I've had in the past, there is just a depressible spring button here, which lets you slide off the front barrel, held on by a locking surface there. And with one sort of half twist, we end up with our mechanism. So, just to give you an idea of what the difference if we use the rubber bands looks like, we need a slightly longer plunger because we can't pull the rubber bands back as far as that particular length of bungee cord. This is a general design consideration with bungee cord usage, which is you need more space to pull it, which is why I've avoided using it in the past. But for this one, I figured why not? So we thread these through. Now, hopefully I've done this right. Lock that back in there. Good. Hook this guy back up. And again, you need to press that button to get it back in. Let's see if we can prime that. Bring back our FPS counter. And we get a lower but still respectable 80 FPS. Again, different rubber bands, different ammunition will change that. Now, I will show the full build video for this in a second, but it's probably worth pointing out some of the options I've included. So, hooks with and without the logo. One thing which I'm pretty sure is not historical, but I've seen on modern reproductions of these, and I thought would be a cool feature, is having a ramrod holder. So, let's just show what this looks like with that installed. And that gives us a little ramrod holder, which we can insert that into for easy storage. Now, again, I don't think this is historical. This is not something I really see much of, but it's a cute little feature in case you want it. Cool. I guess another final note on the design of this. This is substantially stronger than most of the other stuff I've made. So in the past, let's take this one for example, I put a lot of emphasis on screws being hidden, connecting multiple parts. You can see here the joint between there, the joint here. It's all pretty hidden, and the screws are mostly used where historically screws would be. This is real cool, kind of works okay with the pistols. For anything larger, just leads to a lot of weakness and unnecessary hidden joint work. And I couldn't figure out a way to do this, and that's actually why this was never really on my original to-do list, without just putting a crap ton of screws everywhere. But the end result is pretty tough, which is nice. Cool. Again, thank you to everyone who supported me in the past with these files. They've helped me pretty much keep producing other stuff, which unfortunately it hasn't been on this channel of late, something I'm hoping to change a little bit this year. Anyway, I'll leave that through to the video explaining how to build this. Again, files are available in the description. Okay, here's all the parts you'll need to assemble this bad boy. We have all our printed part, some bungee cord. You can also substitute the bungee cord with elastics. We'll get into that later, but you need one or the other. A bunch of M5 times 50mm screws, M5 times 40mm screws, some M5 times 20mm screws, two M3 times 20mm screws, two M3 nuts, and two springs. These are 2cm by 1cm springs. You need something approximately this long, but it doesn't really matter exactly which ones. To that end, also, I will post some imperial equivalents for these screws. These are biting into the plastic itself, so they're not so sensitive to the exact size. We're going to start with the barrel and catch assembly. So let's take the pieces we'll need for the catch, which is this base barrel piece, spring catch, a little button for that, and a spring. So first up, we're going to insert this button. Goes, see it has a little bit of a shoe there. That's going to go like so. And you're going to insert this guy. See how there's a slope in there? That's going to face towards you as you're doing this, because that's what the sled is going to use to push down. I'm going to insert this such that the button kind of threads on. Should be on there fairly tight. Neat. Cool, cool. Take our spring, chuck that in there. We can test this as making sense by let's test to see if this is going to work correctly. Should catch. Obviously I pulled the spring out, but good. That's working as intended. Then going to assemble the rail head. So our headpiece just slaps on here. Good. We take our two screws. Now, depending on how tight your printer is, you may need to actually screw these in. We take our M3 nuts and insert them like so, and that's going to keep this whole thing simply secure. You can check to see if these are on tight enough by just checking if this still inserts neatly into the barrel. That's looking good. Okay, so now we have the core of that. Now, my one slightly bent a bit, but you'll see. So the way you get this in here compared to my previous designs, you should just do one turn. Let's do the elastic as well. So, okay, so after a little bit of testing, you want a loop of bungee cord, at least 7 inches, perhaps even a little more, maybe 8 or 18 centimeters long when laid out like this. So obviously the total length is a little more than double of that, accounting for the knot, which in this case is just like a shoelace knot. And once you have this, you're actually going to lay it out a little bit similarly to how we were using the elastic in some of my other designs. So we're going to take our sled, throw that in there, take one end, throw it like that. Now in this case, you probably don't want the knot at the top, because we're going to put it in here. We're going to put it in here, insert it horizontally, making sure that when we twist it, and it's only a 45-degree turn to lock it in, that little sledge, that part of the catch is pointing down because that's gonna interact here. So, to put the elastic cord on like so, we take the top end of the barrel, do that. We now have a complete barrel assembly. We'll come back to that in a bit. With that done, we can now assemble the stock. Now, you can use glue for this if you want it really secure, but it also will make it much harder to sort of mess around a bit later. So I'm going to be sticking to delicious 5mm screws for this. We'll also need that one other spring. Let's get started. So actually, let's take that off for now. Take this out, just have the barrel pieces. We take this sort of middle section here, and you'll see that these two parts of the barrel just slide in like so. Then I'm going to take this side of the front and chuck that in. So we have this. We're gonna need this guy now. This is the part that holds the barrel in, which is spring-loaded. So that just inserts like so. Again, you want to make sure you've gotten rid of all the extra like junk on here before you go any further with this. Cool. Keep that spring on hand and take the other end of the front and our hook in this case, which just fits in there. Take this end of the front, chuck in that spring. Before this goes any further, make sure, so when I put this on, I'm going to be certain that button is operating correctly and depressing. Cool, looks like it is. Take our other front piece, which should just slide in like so. Cool. This is the core of the blaster. We're now going to take all our 5 times 50mm screws. Should be 5 of them. No. There you are. We're going to use this to secure this assembly. Cool. Once we have that section done, we're just going to do a quick test to see if everything has been assembled correctly. Chuck those in. Press that button to close that. That should be quite secure. Just for safety, we're going to install one of these. Take 2 20mm screws. We're going to take our ramrod. We've primed it. Chuck in a bowl or Nerf dart, whatever you so please. Should fit just like so. And See if it fires again. It totally does. Great, now we can do the rest of this. Okay, that's the complete interactive shooty assembly, I guess. We're now going to work on the tail. And this is, if you were serious about using glue, this might be one of the places you consider. But for now, I'm just going to take 2 pieces. We're going to build our way back from here. You'll still be taking 50mm screws for this part. And then for the rest, let's use our 40mm screws again. I can't even fit into frame, but that gives us a complete Handgonne blaster. Oh, and don't forget the ramrod. You can glue that if you really want. There might be some more accessories and alternative parts. I'll talk about those in a bit, but that is pretty much the whole assembly.